Sometimes when people see my garden or my houseplants, they say stuff like, "Wow, Madge, that's so pretty. I wish I could do that, but I just don't have a green thumb." Like, a green thumb is something that you're preordained to either have or not have. The truth is, I also used to kill all of my plants until I started to figure out how to take care of them. I would say I have a pretty green thumb nowadays, but I was not born with it. I developed it over time. And you can too if you want. Since we moved to this house last February, my houseplants have been living in the sunroom, and they really like it. But other than a few waterings here and there, they've basically gotten through the summer on their own. So today, while I show some love to my poor neglected houseplants, I'm going to tell you what I've learned about caring for them and how you can become a plant person yourself. My first task today is to repot a bunch of my plants. So I've got a big bag of bumper crop potting soil, I've got some empty pots, and I'm just getting stuck into this task. While I do this, I wanted to talk a little bit about how I became a plant person. For many, many years, I killed every plant that I touched. The problem was I would buy them and then I would forget about them and then they would die. Turns out, forgetting about your plants actually kills them, which seems like a really basic thing, but it took me a long time to realize it. Once I did, I got much better at caring for them. I started small, just a couple of baby plants that were in my line of sight every single day so that I could not ignore them, and that's where my green thumb started developing. It's all about paying attention. When I put my plants in out-of-the-way spots where I don't spend a lot of time, they do poorly. But when they live in the same spaces where I live, I can't help but notice when they look sad or thirsty or droopy. So this is maybe my most important tip. Put your plants where you will see them and notice them every single day. Because when you see them all the time, you'll get to know them and you'll see right away when leaves are turning yellow or when webbing starts forming between the leaves. The dreaded spider mite. And you can address the issue before anyone perishes. Personally, I like to grow low-maintenance babies, like this fishbone cactus that you see me repotting right here, or like this pretty pothos. Look how beautiful she is. And she tells me exactly when she needs a drink by dramatically drooping her leaves. This plant is a good communicator. Some people love to raise divas, but I am not one of those people. So I don't buy calatheas anymore because even though they're beautiful, I can't seem to keep them alive through the winter. Same thing with alocasias. They are so cool looking. They look like you're in Jurassic Park. I love them. But every single time I bring one home, it gets spider mites almost immediately, and I can't deal with that. But just because I don't have an affinity for demanding houseplants doesn't mean I can't grow anything, obviously. So often I see people picking the most challenging plants, killing them, and then giving up on plants entirely because they're like, "Oh, I don't have a green thumb." It's not true. I'm done repotting, so I'm cleaning up my mess with my leaf blower, and then I'm going to use the hose to give all of these plants on the steps a little shower, let them drain for a bit, and then bring them back inside. Okay, now to tackle my disaster of a dining room table, arrange some flowers, and share more tips. I kind of let this dining room table get away from me this week. There's a bunch of packages, dead flowers, live flowers, arrangements, and all kinds of random stuff on here. So while I work my way through all of these things on the table, let's talk about the two most important things that houseplants and really all plants need to survive, and that's sunlight and water. In general, you're going to want to give them more light and less water than you think. That's because most of the plants that we keep as houseplants evolved to grow beneath the canopy in the rainforest. So they like sunshine, but not blasting straight on them. They also need water, but not all day every day, and they don't want to sit in wet soil. What most houseplants want is nice, bright, indirect sunlight, and they want their soil to dry out completely between waterings. So how do you tell if a spot has bright, indirect sunlight? A good rule of thumb is that if it's bright enough in a room to sit in there and read a book in it all day without turning on a light, that's about right. For instance, my living room is great for houseplants because it has windows on 3 sides and it gets light all day. I do have a few plants pretty close to the windows in here, but those windows face north, so the sunlight is mostly indirect and no one gets burnt. My sunroom, on the other hand, faces east, which means that the plants in the windows here get gentle morning sun only, and that tends to be more agreeable to them than harsh west-facing afternoon sun. I do have some plants in here that love getting direct sunshine, like this big, beautiful jade plant, and you can see how happy it is. So there's no hard and fast rule. Different plants do need different things, but you're going to be hard-pressed to find a plant that will be perfectly happy in a sunless room. The dining room that I'm in right now, this room's a little dark for most plants, but I have a few that don't want or need a ton of sunshine, and they do fine on the shelf above my built-ins there that you can see on the upper right of the screen. And they do face south, but they're blocked by the house next door, and also they're very dirty, so there's not all that much sunshine coming through them. We moved into this place in February, and I'm still learning so much about the patterns of sun on our property as the seasons change, and I'm always rearranging indoor plants as I observe them and as the position of the sun moves throughout the sky. It's all just a matter of paying attention and experimenting. I can honestly spend a whole weekend puttering around like this, and truly, this is precisely the amount of excitement I want in my life. For me, this is what it means to be a plant person. It makes my nervous system calm. Okay, I cleared the dining room table. I arranged some flowers. I broke a mason jar. I cleaned it up. And now it's time to move on to some plant business here in the sunroom. So how can you tell if a plant needs to be watered? Some of them will let you know. You can also use a moisture meter like I'm doing right now, or you can stick your finger in the soil, and if your finger comes out clean, you can go ahead and water. If your finger comes out with soil on it, it's probably not dry enough yet. Also, make sure your plants are in pots with drainage holes. Otherwise, the water will pull up around the roots and they will rot. If you have a cute pot that you want to use that doesn't have holes, that's okay. Just put your plant in a pot that does have holes and stick the whole thing inside the cute pot. The next thing I'm doing is cleaning the leaves because when they're dirty, they can't photosynthesize. The big boys that are hard to move, I usually wipe the leaves down with a damp cloth. But everyone else, I like to give them a shower. This way we know that all of the dirt is getting off the leaves and they're getting a good drink at the same time. Everyone somehow looks so much happier once their leaves are clean. Ideally, this is something I would do every month or so, but realistically, I probably only get to it 2 or 3 times a year. It still makes a huge difference though. All right, everyone has been cleaned and watered, and now I'm going to give them some food. The best time to feed the plants is after they've had a good drink. That way their roots are open and they can just take that food right up. Much like outdoor plant food, this stuff smells foul, but it works great. I like to pour it in the watering can while the water is running. That way it mixes it up a little bit for me and I don't have to put my hand or a utensil in there. Some houseplant parents are really good about feeding their babies every week or 2, but I'm not the greatest about this. I do my best, which means they probably get fed about 6 times a year, but they're all still alive, you know? And sometimes getting everyone through the day alive is all you can do. Also, if you feed them, they grow a lot faster, and a lot of these are big enough already. You'll notice as I'm feeding these that I'm aiming for the soil and not the leaves. That is to make sure that all of the food gets directly to the roots and there's no chance of burning the leaves on the plant. I'm also being careful not to overfill each pot because the last thing I want is this stinky stuff running out the bottom and getting all over my floors. Everyone has had a bath and a meal. They're looking really nice back there. Now I want to go look at a couple of houseplants that have been living their best lives outside all summer. I swear this big zigzag cactus does not grow at all through the entire year, but when I put it outside, it grows a ton. I am just spraying it down with neem oil and doing the same thing with a couple of other plants that have been living on the porch to make sure that when I bring them back in a few weeks, they won't have any bugs on them. In fact, I'm going to dunk the whole plant in a bin full of water, dish soap, and neem oil before I bring them back in, just to make sure no one is catching a ride into my house. I have killed so many plants in my life. Sometimes I think that's actually the key to becoming a plant person, because nothing teaches you more than failure. But it's just like anything else. The more you practice, the better you will get. So if your plants struggle, or if you even lose a few, don't worry about it. Just get another plant and keep trying. If you are a person who thinks you always kill plants and you wish you could have a green thumb, I hope this video was helpful to you. And if you want to see how I attempt to avoid seasonal affective disorder by turning this room into a crazy plant-filled oasis, I hope you will subscribe and follow along. Bye for now, friends. See you in the next one.